It is that time again. A new Pokemon's coming to unite. It is Latias, and here's everything you need to know before it hits Eos Island. Latias is our new ranged supporter coming to the game, but that might be a very loose description of this Pokemon because it feels like a very strong carry. This feels like very similar to Latios in a lot of ways, and it also has a few functions in its kit that are supportive for its allies, but there's no question this thing does absurd damage and actually stays in the fight very, very well. Latias's basic attack works exactly like Latios's, and it also has that ability that Latios has, where when it uses a move, its move speed increases for a short period of time, and if it's near Latios, its move speed increases for the entire time it is around that Pokemon. Plus, these two Pokemon do have the ability to fly to each other across the map on a 90-second cooldown, basically meaning don't let two of these on the same team at the same time. It would be very, very bad to have these two jets on the same squad. It's going to be dangerous. I would highly recommend in draft to not let your opponents do this. You start with the moves Confusion and Swift, just like Latios. However, Swift is different. I love that Swift is different on every Pokemon that they have. So unlike the sort of wide line that it flies out for Latias, this is a larger fanning motion that we're going to see a similar move when we upgrade it to its version of Dragon Pulse. Now, not all of the moves are the same. It does have different moves from Latios, but a lot of them are similar in style. First, let's talk about what is probably going to be the more popular move, and that is Dragon Pulse. Dragon Pulse for Latios is incredibly good. I also think it is incredibly good for Latias. Now, it is not the insane range that you have with Latios. It is still this kind of wide fanning motion that is able to hit multiple enemy Pokemon, wild Pokemon. It's really, really solid. And in fact, when I was playing in the public test server, I liked Latias a lot more than I liked Latios. Just like the Dragon Pulse from Latios, Latias's Dragon Pulse also will start to generate those little projectiles that fly at your opponents and do extra damage. It looks like it picks a maximum of one target that they're going to fly at when it attacks them. However, this move also recovers your HP when you hit with it, and the HP recovery felt pretty significant when I was testing it. You never know what value that's going to come in at, but I have a feeling this thing is going to brawl extremely well because of the HP recovery on Dragon Pulse and how easy it is to kind of move across the map, hit multiple enemies, farm. This move feels like it generates Aeon power a lot better than Latios. And if you don't know much about the Aeon power situation between these two Pokemon, briefly explained, when you KO wild Pokemon, you generate Aeon power, and when you hit enemy Pokemon with your first move, with Latias, that's either Dragon Pulse or Dragon Breath, you are able to generate Aeon power. The more Aeon power you have, the more damage you are doing to your opponents, and your one move, either Pulse or Breath, is going to have an additional effect that continues to get stronger and stronger. So more telekinetic projectiles are going to fly. With Draco Meteor on Latios, more meteors are going to land. I'll talk about Dragon Breath here in a moment. So every 25, it is going to get more. At 25, you get your projectiles, then more at 50, 75, 100, and it caps at 125. However, you still will do extra damage the more stacks of Aeon power that you get. You will just have a maximum cap of how many projectiles you're going to throw. The other move you could choose first is Dragon Breath. Dragon Breath feels a lot like Dragapult's Dragon Breath, and it will deal damage to your opponents. It will decrease their special defense, and its upgraded version will decrease their move speed as well. So it will slow them. This one is really interesting. I don't think it's going to be as good as Dragon Pulse, but you never know with how powerful this can get inside of a match. It also feels like it's pretty easy to hit your opponents with this and get stacks with this move, but Dragon Pulse feels pretty similarly easy, right? I think the really cool thing about this is going to be shredding your opponent's special defense, making it easier for a team doing special attack damage to destroy their opponents, and that could be a very, very powerful combination depending on your team composition. I think Dragon Pulse feels like the stronger move early, but Dragon Breath is really cool. The more Aeon power you accumulate with Dragon Breath, the move's range increases and its damage increases. So as I talked about, this Pokemon feels like a supporter that carries pretty hard. I think it's a supporter kind of in name only. Latios' next two moves are either Mist Ball or Dragon Cheer. Dragon Cheer is the most supportive move, it feels like, in this kit. However, Mist Ball is pretty good. Mist Ball will launch a kind of orb towards your opponents that you can detonate if you would like. It explodes, it deals damage to them, and they receive a slowing effect, plus they are marked. So marked opposing Pokemon deal decreased damage. So you are debuffing opposing Pokemon when you hit them with this mark. If you hit multiple Pokemon on the enemy team before a team fight with this, that could be devastating for the enemy squad. These two moves definitely feel like the most supportive part of this Pokemon's kit, no question. Also, if they have this mark on them and Latias or a Latios on your team is hitting them with basic attacks, the duration of the mark increases. So you can decrease the damage they do for a considerable amount of time. Feels like a really powerful combination and a great way to shut down strong enemy Pokemon. The upgrade of this move will also increase the duration of it. I really do think Mist Ball could be one of those moves that absolutely dominates if you catch multiple opponents in a big fight. Then we have Dragon Cheer, and Dragon Cheer is clearly just a buff for an ally, right? You rally a designated ally, and by doing that, you're going to grant the next basic attack they do additional damage. The additional damage is actually pretty considerable too once it gets powered up, it feels like. It can be used again, and if you use it again on the same ally, you fly to that Pokemon and you rally yourself. So your first move, Mist Ball, debuffs your opponents. This one is going to buff your allies and move forward looking for a KO. You also, of course, would use it to peel away from a fight, run back, right, towards your team with something like this. If you are attaching this to anything that has ranged basic attacks, Latios obviously comes to mind, but there are many others. This could be a crazy powerful combination for this Pokemon. Its Unite move is going to function exactly like Latios's. Mist Blast, you are going to have a sure hit on your opponents, you charge it up. If Latios and Latias are charging on the same target, the pulses will stack and explode, dealing damage around the target as well. I think this will be a rare occurrence, but very cool for you if it's on your team when it does happen. If the enemy team gets it, I mean, it's gonna be gross. Like, seeing these two in combat together could be very, very busted. For item and emblem choices, I think it's going to be a little interesting. You are probably going to stack special attack on this Pokemon. You may run something like an EXP share, but considering how hard this Pokemon carries and how valuable its level 5 is going to be, you might actually end up playing this Pokemon a lot more like an attacker or something like that and not run EXP share. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to be. There is a question as to whether or not the EXP is going to matter, because once you hit level 5 and you start charging up Aeon Power, your Aeon Power is charged up by defeating wild Pokemon, which doesn't matter if you have EXP share on, right? It's okay to send EXP to an ally in that situation, or just tagging opponents with your first move. But given how strong this was on the PTS, I think you will probably be playing this thing like a carry attacker, just like Latios. And then emblems, I'm guessing we're going to be looking at a green-black emblem situation, very similar to Latios as well. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you going to pick this Pokemon up? And before we head out, I want to talk to you a little bit about the events around these Pokemon, because there actually are some people who miss out on these because they make a few big mistakes when they're going through one of these dice events. Okay, we've talked about Latias's moves, some builds, the fact that I think it's going to be amazing, especially when paired with Latios. Please don't let them get drafted on the same team. I think your life is going to be miserable if you do. But I want to talk about an event like this. This is the Latios Twin Dragon Festival Challenge whole thing. Just some tips here, okay? If you are trying to do this event free to play, you can unlock these Pokemon, but you're going to need to be smart about it. If you use rerolls and things like that effectively, you'll be able to unlock every part of this with only paying a small amount of coins, right? There are a few things you need to do an event like this correctly. First, you do need to log in daily to roll your dice and complete your tile missions. You have to do it daily. There's no other way around it. You might be able to get lucky enough to miss a day here or two, but you're going to find people that do not unlock their Pokemon and they're just a little bit off. And if you're trying to do it free to play, you need to log in, period. You have to do it. You head on over, you see what your mission is, you do one of the things, participate in a battle with the Alolan Raichu, you pick a Alolan Raichu, you take it into Electrode Volleyball, you move on or something, right? So when it comes to rolling your dice, there are a few things to keep in mind. First off, the gold squares on the map that allow you to move additional spaces. If you happen to land on one of those with a decent roll, don't re-roll your dice. That's great. It'll move you a couple, maybe one space forward, but it's like extra movement. However, when you roll your dice, if you roll anything 3 and under, I highly recommend you re-roll at least one time for 100 coins. You may need to re-roll again. If you like go a 1 and a 2, you may need to re-roll again. Some rolls are going to be great, but some rolls you need to re-roll. Absolutely. If your roll is 4, 5, or 6, you can probably stay safe with that. Obviously, 100 coins, you can boost that up a little bit. But basically, anything under 4, 5, and 6, you must re-roll. Use 100 coins, re-roll, move forward. You cannot afford multiple days of rolling small numbers when you are trying to get through a map like this. Alright, so I went in, I played a match with a Alolan Raichu and Electrode Volleyball. I claim this, I get the 10 points. I can now roll my dice right here. We'll see what I get. I get a 3. I would highly recommend that you roll again if you're getting a number like a 3 or below. 100 coins is what it costs the first time you do this. So if you do this every day throughout the event, you might spend a couple thousand coins to unlock this Pokemon, but it will be much less than the 15,000 coins it will cost later. When I see a roll like this, 5 or 6, I probably wouldn't roll again. However, if you did want to, it will cost more coins each time you re-roll, which is why I would recommend once you hit that break point of 4, 5, or 6, or again, you are landing on one of the big squares, you probably don't need to re-roll. If you'd like, you could, but a 5 or a 6, I don't think you need to re-roll. But anything really low, you absolutely do want to. And then again, in a situation like this, the only time I wouldn't re-roll my dice on my next roll, 3 or under, is if I hit a 2. It will move me ahead a few squares, maybe only 1, so that might not be super ideal, but that's the only time I wouldn't re-roll. 3 or under, I would re-roll every single time. If you are trying to unlock this for free and you don't want to run into a situation where you're right at the end and you just don't have enough points. I should also mention they unlock more of these dice as you are going through the event, so just make sure you're playing daily, roll your dice, re-roll anything under 3. For sure, you will be 99% to unlocking it free to play. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I love you. I'll see you out there. Go team.